Great. Well, here we go. So we're going to start this webinar. Very exciting part of second of a series of 3 webinars, bringing together experiences in rural water and sanitation and hygiene from across Asia, Africa, and Latin America and the Caribbean. So thank you very much for joining us today. So before we begin, I just want to do a few housekeeping bits and pieces to help you enjoy and get the most out of this event. So this webinar will be recorded, and both the recording and the presentations will be shared afterwards on our websites, the RWSN website, and also on our YouTube channel and our Vimeo channel. So lots of different ways if you want to catch up or share with colleagues and friends afterwards. We're also aware, because we're trying with this series to encapsulate 3 regions, that it's been really difficult to find times that suit everyone. In fact, it's pretty much impossible. So today we're in the morning in Europe, which is great for Europe and Africa, and for Asia, not so great for Latin America, but we're trying to mix it up. Anyway, during the main session, if you can keep your microphone muted so that there's minimal disturbance to the speakers. You're already introducing yourself in the chat box, which is super. But please, if you have questions to any of the speakers or panelists, use the Q&A box, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. But please feel free to use the chat box to share any comments that you have. And then please, just a request at the end to complete the short survey. This helps us learn, what are we doing well, what can we improve, so that we can produce better webinars for you in the future. This webinar is being translated into between 4 languages, which is a wonderful opportunity. So today we offer English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. You can choose the language that you want if you go to the globe symbol at the bottom of the screen and select your preferred language. We have 1 presentation in Spanish today and 2 in English. So the agenda. My name's Sean Fury. I'm the director of the Rural Water Supply Network Secretariat, and I'm really happy to welcome you to this webinar. It's great that we've got 60 people and climbing joining us this morning. Soon I'll hand over to an opening from Alison Woodruff from the Asian Development Bank. And then we have 3 presentations on this today's topic of strengthening institutions for rural WASH. Then we'll have a good period after that, around 40 minutes or so for Q&A, an opportunity for you to ask questions, to have a bit of a discussion, which I'll be moderating. And then we'll have closing remarks in the last 10 minutes from Alison and her colleague Jitendra Singh, also from the Asian Development Bank, who are the lead conveners of today's webinar. And we thank them very much for all the hard work for them and the speakers so far. So that's the order of the day. Let me now introduce you to Alison, who is going to take us through open up this event for us. Ms. Woodruff is an environmental and natural resources economist with more than 15 years experience working on urban water supply and sanitation and natural resource management projects in Asia and the Pacific. As a principal water security specialist at the Asian Development Bank, ADB, she provides strategic, technical, and policy advice and knowledge support to operational departments and developing member countries across the region on water security issues. Prior to joining ADB in 2008, she held positions with the Secretariat of Pacific Community, United Nations Development Programme, and other Canadian government and non-governmental organisations. She holds a Master's of Science in Environmental and Development from the London School of Economics and Political Science, and a Master of Science in Development Economics from SOAS, University of London, and also holds a Bachelor of Science in Economics and in Environmental Studies from the University of Victoria, Canada. So with great pleasure, I hand over to her to take us through, open up this webinar for us.
Great. Thank you so much, Sean. And good day to everyone from Manila, Philippines. It's a pleasure to join you for the webinar today, which will focus on the topic of formalizing and strengthening institutions for rural WASH services. This is an extremely important topic, particularly as the world looks to scale up progress on the Sustainable Development Goals, namely SDG 6 on water and sanitation for all. Currently, about 8 out of 10 people in rural areas continue to lack access to basic drinking water, and 6 out of 10 rural households lack basic access for sanitation. Because of this, rural households spend a significant amount of time collecting water that could otherwise be used productively for activities like going to school or engaging in livelihood activities. In 2018, for example, it was found that in India, about 55.8 million hours were spent in that year collecting water. And this has a disproportionate impact on women and girls because they're the ones who are more likely to be responsible for collecting water for their families. So the implications of inadequate access to WASH services is huge. And I think if we are going to achieve SDG 6, we really need to focus on rural water supply and sanitation specifically. Just to give an example about how from the Asian Development Bank, we're starting to really try and zero down on WASH and look at how we can accelerate progress in rural areas. ADB produces every few years a publication called the Asia Water Development Outlook. This is where we measure water security in all the countries in Asia and the Pacific using 5 key dimensions. In 2020, we decided to update the methodology. And previously, we looked across the board at urban and rural households together and their water security, but realized that we really need to look at rural households as a distinct group. So we created a new dimension under our Asia Water Development Outlook, focusing specifically on rural household water security. And this measures the extent to which countries provide safe, sufficient, and physically accessible and affordable water and sanitation services for health and livelihoods with an acceptable level of water-related risks. And through this exercise, we found that about 1.1 billion rural people in 49 countries in Asia and the Pacific are facing water insecurity, making rural households among the least water secure communities in the region, largely due to lower levels of service provision and more vulnerability to water-related disasters. And so I think this is why programs including SIRWASH are so important for accelerating SDG progress, because they focus for rural households, because of that specific focus on rural. And we really, in the rural sector, really need to move away from business as usual and promote innovation, integrated approaches, and more collaboration. So that's why ADB, from ADB side, we're really delighted to be collaborating with the Inter-American Development Bank, the Rural Water Supply Network, African Development Bank, and others on this SIRWASH Webinar Series, and also broader South-South cooperation. So I'm really looking forward to hearing today's exciting lineup of fantastic speakers from Bolivia, Rwanda, and Cambodia, and hearing them share the innovations in rural WASH systems and institutional strengthening in their respective countries. So maybe just to give a brief overview and introduction to SIRWASH, the Sustainable and Innovative Rural Water Sanitation and Health Services Program of the Inter-American Development Bank, which is funded by the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation and working in partnership with Rural Water Supply Network and Skat Foundation. This program rationale aims to close the gap and improve service quality of water and sanitation services in rural areas. It aims to provide services that are socially acceptable, inclusive, affordable, and sustainable, And finally, build the capacities, particularly among women and youth, and foster an enabling environment to create changes for the long term. So SIRWASH has pilots in 4 countries, in Peru, Bolivia, Brazil, and Haiti, in the Latin American region. And it has 3 main components. The first one focusing on policy. So the SIRWASH is aiming to strengthen the integration of rural WASH and integrated water resources management at the policy level. Recognizing that rural communities are often the keepers of water resources and play an extremely important role in their management. So it's really important to take that holistic approach of integrating water resources management and the WASH sector. The second component focuses on partnerships, knowledge, and capacity. So building capacities and exchanging on best practices while supporting multi-sectoral WASH platforms and pushing for sustainable interventions and smart monitoring systems. So this is where I think the partnership with Asian Development Bank and African Development Bank is so valuable, with Inter-American Development Bank, to have that, bring that South-South learning and learning from each other between Latin America and Caribbean, Asia, and Africa. And then finally, the pillar on promoting innovation, innovative technical and social and rural WASH solutions, including financing mechanisms, fostering private sector participation. And I think this is really key, just from observation. Often we say in the rural WASH sector, only try simple, tried and tested solutions, which is a bit of a misconception. I think from ADB side, we find that innovations can be really successful in WASH sector to really scale up sanitation and water supply access. In Cambodia, a country you'll hear from today, ADB has been piloting innovative sanitation solutions like floating toilets. So I think this really shows you can have extremely innovative technical and other approaches in the rural WASH sector. So next slide, please. So SIRWASH works at 3 levels of intervention. So first, it's working at the country level in Latin America and Caribbean, piloting activities in Peru, Bolivia, Brazil, and Haiti to support these innovative approaches that I mentioned. And then next, it's working at the regional level to showcase what's been learned from these country pilots and then help scale solutions at the regional level. And then finally, SIRWASH is supporting the global level. So collaborating with, as I mentioned, institutions like the Asian Development Bank, African Development Bank, to share lessons from Latin America and the Caribbean with these regions to really promote that South-South knowledge exchange and learning. So really looking forward to hearing our speakers today and learning about their experiences in strengthening institutions and systems for rural WASH interventions. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Alison. That's a wonderful introduction. So let's move on swiftly to our first presentation, which has been pre-recorded for us by Ms. Ordonez, who is the Ms. Karina Ordonez is from the Authority of Social Control and Regulation in Bolivia. She was born in the city of La Paz and was appointed as the Executive Director of the Water and Sanitation Authority, AAPS, in February 2021 by the ministerial resolution. She is the first woman to assume the position of highest executive authority, recognizing her professional career as a graduate in civil engineering with specialization in sanitary engineering from the University Mayor de San Andreas. She has a postgraduate degree in critical chain project management for the basic sanitation sector and a diploma in basic sanitation strategies. She has extensive professional experience in the management of drinking water and basic sanitation services from a comprehensive approach to regulation, covering professional positions in planning, monitoring, control, supervision, and oversight of services. Miss Ordonez is unable to join us today because of the time zones, but if you have any questions on her presentation, we are very happy to take those and pass those on and get answers back at a later date. But anyway, let us begin.
Experiencia piloto de regularización concurrente de EBSAS y relevamiento de información para plataformas informáticas. ¿Qué es un registro o una licencia? De acuerdo a la ley número 2066, en su artículo 49, reconoce y otorga seguridad jurídica a los servicios de agua potable y alcantarillado sanitario. Establece que el registro es un requisito para acceder a proyectos y programas gubernamentales del sector. El registro se otorga a poblaciones menores a 2.000 habitantes, correspondientes a las áreas indígenas originarias y a los pueblos y comunidades indígenas y campesinas. Las asociaciones, sindicatos, organizaciones campesinas y regantes que prestan el servicio de agua potable y garantizan la seguridad jurídica de sus titulares. ¿Por qué es importante que las entidades prestadoras de servicio de agua y alcantarillado, comités CAPIS, que son comités de agua potable y saneamiento, cuente con un registro o licencia? Porque les garantiza que por parte de los CAPIS, la prestación de los servicios de agua potable y alcantarillado sanitario. También otorga seguridad jurídica a los CAPIS en el área de prestación de servicio y a las fuentes de agua que sirven para poder prestar el servicio. Del mismo modo, el registro de CAPIS es un requisito acá en nuestro país para obtener personería jurídica. Y por último, la licencia o registro, de acuerdo a la ley 2066, habilita para poder acceder a proyectos y programas gubernamentales en el sector. ¿Cómo es actualmente el procedimiento de otorgación de licencias y registros? Nosotros recibimos la documentación de todo el trámite. Posteriormente, vamos a una tarea de inspección, donde en este momento se realiza la capacitación al personal, se georreferencia y se termina de obtener la documentación que falta. Este proceso en promedio dura entre 4 meses y 1 año al menos. Con este procedimiento se ha logrado en 14 años regularizar un total de 2.515 EBSAS, entidades prestadoras de servicio de agua. Sin embargo, se ha establecido que en nuestro país tenemos un total de 18.975 EBSAS, lo que quiere decir que aún sin registro tenemos 16.460 EBSAS. De continuar con este procedimiento y al ritmo que se ha realizado la regularización de licencias, necesitamos un promedio de 50 años para poder tener la totalidad de los CAPIS o EBSAS regularizadas. El proyecto piloto se ha realizado con la División de Agua y Saneamiento del BID, que viene apoyando al Estado plurinacional de Bolivia. En este apoyo se ha logrado incluir esta experiencia piloto, la misma que consiste en optimizar este proceso de otorgación de registro o licencia, implementando una modalidad de regularización concurrente con el gobierno autónomo municipal, a objeto de emitir sus respectivas licencias y registros. De esta forma, esta experiencia piloto se ha realizado en el departamento de Chuquisaca. El objetivo es gestar una nueva modalidad de registro para la otorgación de estos derechos. El mecanismo implica que este proceso de regularización concurrente con los gobiernos autónomos municipales y los gobiernos autónomos departamentales a través de convenios o acuerdos intergubernativos de delegación competencial parcial. Lo que quiere decir es que a través de la firma de convenios intergubernativos entre la APS y el gobierno autónomo municipal, es este último el que se encarga de realizar la inspección, la georreferenciación y la capacitación en campo de estos comités de agua a través de un personal técnico acreditado por el municipio. Este proyecto tiene 7 fases. La primera fase es la articulación de los actores, coordinar con los gobiernos autónomos municipales para poder realizar estas tareas. Posteriormente, se realiza la formación de técnicos municipales. La APS capacita al técnico municipal en las actividades que deben realizarse en campo. Posteriormente, estos técnicos municipales, junto con la APS, realizan el relevamiento y la validación de la información presentada. Posteriormente, se analizan y se evalúan todas las solicitudes para que, como al estar acreditado el personal del gobierno autónomo municipal, se proceda directamente por parte de la APS a la emisión de las resoluciones administrativas regulatorias. Una vez que cumplan con este fin, se acredita al personal de los gobiernos autónomos municipales para que puedan realizar estas acciones con otros comités de agua. Y por último, lo que se espera es el escalamiento de esta experiencia piloto en otros departamentos y también con otro tipo de colaboración. Al momento, tenemos convenios firmados con 14 municipios del departamento de Cochabamba, 3 municipios en el departamento de La Paz y la experiencia piloto del departamento de Chuquisaca. Obviamente, la demanda está en crecimiento. Estamos despegando con esta nueva forma de regularizar y de la misma forma ya hemos emitido una resolución administrativa regulatoria que reconoce como legal esta nueva forma de trabajo por todos los resultados positivos que hemos tenido. Uno de los puntos a resaltar importantes en esta modalidad de regularización es el involucramiento de los gobiernos autónomos municipales que les permite proyectar sus recursos de mejor manera. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Great. Well, that was a really good presentation from Bolivia, which kind of illustrates how they are wanting to formally register organizations, community organizations. And for me, this links to the last webinar that we had on national monitoring systems and data systems. Please look up that recording if you weren't able to attend, because it links to the same thing. If you want to formalize the institutions of rural WASH, then you need to have the data management systems to back that up. Otherwise, the process just is not very efficient. Anyway, so that was Bolivia, a really great case study. Now we move eastwards to Rwanda, where our next speaker, Mr. Bruce Owanta, is the Deputy Chief of Party for the Isoko Izumbuziza project, which I have just massacred, so he will pronounce that much better than I did. He has a master's degree in water resources and environmental management from the University of Rwanda and holds an advanced diploma in hydraulic engineering and river basins from Egypt. He has over 12 years experience in WASH and environmental management, having joined Water for People in 2015. He currently acts as the Deputy Chief of Party, responsible for managing activities and coordinating collaborations with WASH stakeholders under a new USAID-funded Thrive WASH activity in Rwanda, awarded to Water for People. Since 2015, he's been working on capacity building of national WASH institutions and in the districts where Water for People has been working to ensure the sustainability of WASH facilities.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this planet. My name is Bruce Wongunda. I work with Water for People in Rwanda. I work as a Deputy Chief of Party for Isoko Y'Ubuzima project, a USAID WASH activity funded. Today, I'm honored to share with you the experience of Water for People in Rwanda regarding district-wide approach and WASH system strengthening, specifically for rural water supply, sanitation, and hygiene. Let me first tell you about Rwanda. Rwanda is a small country located in the eastern part of Africa with a 13 million population with a life expectancy of 69 years, one of the highest population growth rates, 2.3% annum, and the access to basic water and sanitation is recorded by the National Statistic Institute being at 82% nationally, and rural 76% and urban 95%. For sanitation, the access is 72.1% at national level, where in rural it's 78.5% and 56.4% in urban. Even though we have this good level of service, Rwanda, like many other development countries, is facing an issue of services. This percentage can be attributed to the heavy infrastructure and heavy investment that the government have made to bring infrastructure coverage, but the service is still very low. So Water for People in Rwanda started back in 2008. We started in one district, and now we are in 5 districts where we are physically present and committed to achieve everyone forever in those districts. But we have also 10 other districts where we are doing system strengthening, and we will hope that those districts will be able to replicate the success of our everyone forever model in our physical district and let them do the work on their own. So let me continue by giving you an overview of the system leadership in Rwanda, or system strengthening, WASH system strengthening in Rwanda. It can be subdivided into three big components. We have the policy formulation, coordination, and financing. We have the implementation aspect and the service delivery. The policy formulation, like many other countries, is undertaken at the ministerial level. And we have the Ministry of Infrastructure, which is the line ministry, and it's the one in charge of formulating the policy related to water and sanitation, and also doing the overall coordination. The financing is catered for by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, and the local administration is done by the Ministry of Local Government. Under the Ministry of Infrastructure, we have one big entity, which is the Water and Sanitation Corporation, which has two functions. The first function is that they are in charge of water and sanitation infrastructure development, both countrywide, but also they are in charge of the water and sanitation utility countrywide. So they are like the implementing arm of the government. But below also the Ministry of Infrastructure, we have a secretariat that is in charge of coordinating all development partners. And this is the Water and Sanitation Secretariat. And sometimes the development partners can work directly with WASAC for WASH project development, but also through local government, through the Ministry of Local Government, or sign bilateral agreement with the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning on behalf of the government. The development partners can also be work directly with the district, like NGOs and other civil society. However, they are all coordinated under the Water and Sanitation Secretariat that I told you, under the Ministry of Infrastructure. Now, the service delivery is being provided by private operators through a public-private partnership, and those private operators in the past, they were signing contract with the district, but now it has changed. They now have to sign a contract with the national utility, which is WASAC. I told that in my previous, which I mentioned previously. But we have also the district that are responsible for overseeing the service to the community, but also in charge of community mobilizations and awareness. So that's how the system is structured in Rwanda. Now, to give you a bit of the history of the WASH system strengthening in Rwanda, even though in my next slides I will tell you about the progress we have made, but the system strengthening did not start recently. It is something that can be attributed to the good leadership and the strong political will of the government of Rwanda. It started back in 1994 after the tragic event that occurred in this country during the genocide against the Tutsi, and after the genocide everything was destroyed. It was an emergency situation. Some of the policy were not available, all the systems were destroyed, and it was rebuilding the country. It's up to the 2000 years that the country started to develop some of the strategic policy of the country, like the country vision 2020, the decentralization policies, and also paving the road to some of the poverty reduction strategy 2 years later, and then that were translated into building the first public-private partnership, and also developing some of the new policy, and of course it was during the MDG era. In 2008, 2012, that's when the government started implementing strong and robust economic development, poverty reduction strategy, and also developing strong national water and sanitation policies. Now, after that, it's when we had the SDGs, and now the policy have been revised in 2016 with now a target to reach the SDG, but also setting a new vision, 2050, but now also introducing the district-wide approach and rolling it out, and now introducing system strengthening and assessment through building blocks assessment. Now, talking about the district-wide approach. The district-wide approach is a concept that started with Water for People when we started in one district. We started back in 2008, 2010 in Rulindo. It was through an approach called Everyone Forever model, where we wanted to reach every family, every communities, every schools, every health centers. But with that approach, the government appreciated that approach and requested Water for People to replicate the same approach in other districts. But at that time, Water for People realized it cannot cover the entire country, and therefore changed its approach. Instead of focusing on one district, rather started system strengthening at national level, so that whatever Water was doing in one district can be replicated in the remaining district. That's how the Everyone Forever model was now translated into a district-wide approach and was piloted in 5 districts. And later on in 2021, Water for People secured a major grant under in USAID, which was to continue that rollout. Now the success we're having from 5 districts was now being replicated in 10 more districts, and the current practice is now we are now rolling out this policy, which the district-wide approach was even recognized in the policy, and now it's being rolled out in all the districts of the countries. So in the journey, it was not only Water for People, it was through a co-creation, it was through a partnership with other partners like WaterAid, UNICEF, and other government institutions to make sure this process is rolled out at national level. Some of the triggering factors, as I've been saying, is that we have the Everyone Forever model that started with Water for People, recognized in the policy as district-wide approach. Some partners joined the process. I mentioned a few of them. In 2016, we tested the process in 5 districts, but the biggest thing is that we supported the Ministry of Infrastructure by providing a technical staff that will be permanently sitting in the ministry and provide a technical support in terms of coordination of the piloting phase, but rolling out the documentation of the best practices, but also shaping the district-wide approach implementation at national level. But in doing this, we also introduced a sector performance review to see where the sector was going and where we are moving. And this one, what was done through a WASH stakeholders meeting together and assessing themselves, and also producing a WASH multi-year plan, which all partners are now committed to implement. Now, with that process, this project that I mentioned that I'm working on, we now introduce what we are calling a building blocks assessment, by seeing whatever the process we are doing and how can it be translated into a building blocks scoring. So we did the first scoring last year, and we did the second one this year, and we have been seeing a good improvement, a slight improvement. The average score can be attributed to some of the good policy and legislation available, and the accountability and the good institutional framework. But however, we still have some challenges. For example, as much as we have good policy and legislations and good institutional framework, the policy actions are not that strong, and the financing aspect is not there yet. Rwanda, like any other developing countries, has limited resources, and therefore the funding does not meet the demand. So these are some of the key actions that we are working together with the Ministry of Infrastructure as part of the district-wide approach, as part of the rollout, as part of the WASH system strengthening countrywide. We are demonstrating the district-wide approach or the system strengthening in 15 districts. That means making sure that whatever we are doing at national level is being translated into district planning. We are developing WASH investment plan for all the districts of the country. We have now a new contract model. As I said in one of my previous slides, before the contract were being signed by the district, and there were some challenges, but now the new contract, the contract will be signed by one utility at national level and signed with private operators. But the good thing is that this contract will have WASAC with good skills and good technicians who will be able to handle things instead of the district, which most of the time might be political people. We have the multi-year plan that I mentioned, and we are continuing to commit to implement it. We have the sector performance review that will continue. We have now strong thematic working group that were not there, but now they are very strong and active. We are anticipating a new policy change, which will maybe help to translate more and emphasize more on the district-wide approach and the system strengthening. We are also helping to address the issue of finance that I raised in my previous slide regarding setting up a project preparatory and funding unit at national level. That unit will be responsible to look for funds available and develop a funding proposal and looking for funds from donors or development partners. We have also developed a customer billing systems that all private operators in Rwanda will be using for billing, for registering their expenses, but also for their report and their financial statement. These are some of few examples of the system strengthening activities and the district-wide approach that we started in one district, but now it is being rolled out national level, but to make sure that whatever we do at the district level is being recognized at central level. Now, of course, I've showed you the journey, I've showed you where we've come from. We are not there yet. We still have a lot of work to do. These are some of the things or some of the key actions or the midterm actions that we'll focus on in the coming years. We need to make sure that the investment plan we are developing need to be embedded in the district planning process. The government need to work actively for the WASH financing strategy and put more effort on the units and mobilize more funds. We have to have a strong implementation aspect of the model, the new contract management model that I mentioned, and to build the capacity of WASAC and the private operators. We also have to make sure that district-wide approach also incorporates a market-based sanitation. We need to continue to have a vibrant and active sector working group through the thematic working groups. We need to have a national monitoring system and make sure the district is using the districts are using that tool for planning processes and monitoring. But also we need to prepare the next generation of WASH professionals. We need to introduce the WASH system strengthening in academic. We need to involve them, and we need to train the next generation of the young water professionals on this new aspect of WASH system strengthening. We also need to consider the climate impact. Sometimes we make an investment, but the system can be washed away by landslide or by flooding, but also by drought, and you have invested but the water is no longer flowing into the pipes. So we are developing water resource master plan for district, but we also want to make sure that these plans are implemented and the pipes and the sources are protected for quality contamination, but also quantity depletion. So thank you very much. That's what I had to share with you, and any questions and clarifications is welcome. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. That was really great, very clear. And Bruce is with us today, so if you have any questions for him about this process, he'll be very happy to take your questions. If you want to put your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll get to that after the third and final presentation. So we're very honored today to have a third speaker as we go further east again, this time to Cambodia, where we have a presentation by His Excellency Nun Pinima, Secretary of State for Ministry of Rural Development in Cambodia. His Excellency mainly oversees the development and implementation of different approaches in providing rural water supply, aiming to achieve the government strategy that by 2025, the rural population will have 100% access to safe water. He initiates capacity building on both national and subnational levels. He is involved in the cooperation with interministries who are working in the water sector and with development partners, international organizations and NGOs who are working in the rural water supply and sanitation. He also works closely with the Ministry of Economics and Finance to bring everything together to make things move. And finally, he has a background in hydrology and water resources engineering and a master's in management and a doctorate in public administration. So we will now move to his presentation.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. My name is Nun Pinima. I'm Secretary of State, Ministry of Rural Development from Kingdom of Cambodia. Today, I make the presentation related to the rural water supply, sanitation, hygiene service in Cambodia. Next, please. So, based on the census 2020, the population in Cambodia 16.7 million. And 75.8% are the rural people. And at the moment, so the rural water supply for the rural people just access 81%, and sanitation just only 69%. So behind of the our targeted. Next, please. The institutional in charge of rural water service. From the government side, we have a Ministry of Rural Development, Provincial Department of Rural Development, we have District Office of Rural Development and Cambodian Red Cross, and also we have the non-government organization and development partner. But at the moment, the main support for rural water supply and sanitation is Asian Development Bank. Next, please. Based to the Pentagonal Strategy Phase 1 that mentioned clearly that promotion of agriculture and rural development through continuous improvement, living condition of rural community, and also based to the Cambodian Sustainable Development Goal Framework from 2016 to 2030. We set up clearly that by 2030, that all the people at rural area that achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water. And also mentioned that by 2030, achieve access to adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene for all, and open education, paying special attention to the need of women and girls and those in vulnerable situations. Next, please. So to strengthening for rural water supply and sanitation sector, Ministry of Rural Development, we also that prepare the national strategic plan that mentioned that for rural water supply and sanitation hygiene from 2014 to 2025. And by 2025 mean that all the people at the rural area have achieved for water supply, safe water supply, and living in hygienic environment and sanitation service. Strategic objective, so we wish to develop mechanism for providing sustainable rural water supply sanitation. We wish to increase financial for rural water supply and sanitation service. We wish to promote sustainable rural water supply service. We wish to promote sustainable rural sanitation service and promote sustainable hygiene and behavior change on rural water supply and sanitation. In the national strategy, we also that prepare the national action plan. We divide into two, NEP 1 from 2014 to 2018, and we prepare NEP 2 from 2019 to 2023. We prepare NEP 2 based to the lesson learned practical on the NEP 1, that the period from 2014 to 2018. Next, please. To sustainable and strengthening for the rural water supply and sanitation sector, the government also transfer the functioning to sub-national level. Sub-national level means that we transfer from the national at the ministry level to district level. The function of transfer that first about the provision of the rural sanitation service, construction and operation maintenance of public latrine, operation and maintenance all type of clean water supply that we transfer for responsible directly by the district level. We also transfer that the Provincial Department of Rural Development provide planning and technical support, still continue to support to the district level, and we also transfer technical staff from provincial level to district level. And also for the budget, we also transfer the budget, not only the staff budget, also we transfer to national, sub-national level. And also we help them, train them to how to know how to prepare the budget plan also. Next, please. This picture show about the rural water supply option. That means the community pond, small pipe water supply. In some place that don't have groundwater, we provide household rainwater jar. But mostly the first option for drill well that we provide to the rural people. And this is for the rural sanitation facility that we provide public latrine at school, health center, household latrine for individual house, and also we introduce about the rural septage also. Next, please. Capacity building are very important. That from Ministry of Rural Development, we provide different kind of training to the people, especially to the sub-national level, at district level, community level, and beneficiary. So we provide the training for operation maintenance for all type of water supply facility, such as drill well, combined well, community pond, water treatment plant, pipe water supply, etc. We provide operation maintenance training to rural sanitation facility for public and private latrine and household latrine. Provide training for rural water supply sanitation facility inventory, for water quality monitoring, for rural water safety plan, behavior change towards sanitation and hygiene. Next, please. Also, the Ministry of Rural Development, we prepare the guideline for water supply sanitation hygiene. We prepare the guideline, guidebook, technical book, and leaflet, poster, different kind of document that we produce, and we disseminate to the people, to the sub-national level, at district level, commune level, and for the beneficiary. Next, please. Next, please. We also face the challenging for the operation and maintenance of the rural water supply sanitation service. First, about the human resource, that the technical staff that we transfer to work at sub-national level very limited. Lack of human resource working in both service in sub-national level. Number two, about the capacity of staff who are working at sub-national level very limited. And also the budget. Number three, the challenge number three is about the budget, that from the national budget, from the government to sub-national level for this sector very limited. And also that from development partner, from the NGO or DP, this very limited after the COVID-19, because most of the country are affected during COVID-19 also. Next, please. This is just a general recommendation how to improve for strengthening this sector for sustainable to use it for long time. First, we need to increase the recruitment of technical staff and send them to work closely at sub-national level. Second, we need to build capacity of technical staff at district level and commune level. Three, we need to increase the budget for this sector, especially for operation maintenance at the sub-national level. Continue to support technical support from ministry level, from provincial department of rural development to sub-national level, and the government and development partners to support, continue to support for sub-national level in implement their water and sanitation hygiene plan. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I think that was our third and final speaker. Thank you, Your Excellency. That was a really good intervention. We now move to the question and answer part of this. We've got about 20 minutes or so for discussion, where we have two of the speakers plus Alison. We're also being joined today by Jitendra Kumar Singh, who's a water supply and sanitation specialist at the Asian Development Bank. He'll be giving some closing remarks, but I'll just introduce him now in case he wants to come in on any of the questions. So Mr. Singh is a water supply and sanitation specialist. He's a civil engineer with a postgraduate degree in environmental engineering and management with over 21 years experience of projects funded through ADB, World Bank and JICA. His areas of expertise include water engineering, detailed engineering, preparation of tender documents and contracts. And in his current role, he manages sanitation financing partnership trust fund within ADB and aims to improve access to safe sanitation in Asian Pacific. So with this wealth of expertise that we have with us today and experience, it'd be really great to have a bit of a conversation about maybe what are some of the issues that we can draw from these three case studies. So for me, one of the things is that when we're talking about institutional building, a lot of this is around the conversation, the relationship between rural communities and their national governments, and what is the nature of that. What's the nature of that relationship really, and how do you organize things when there are so many complicated bits of just within government, so many different bits and pieces. But then you have the private sector, you have NGOs, you have civil society. So this is a very complex machine. And we've had three different approaches, but each country is facing very similar challenges. I mean, the challenges that His Excellency just mentioned in terms of the funding, the human resources, the guidelines, the knowledge and know-how. These are all challenges across all three of them. But all three have also taken some very interesting steps to overcome some of these challenges as well. So, but maybe quickly before we go to the questions, I'd like to come to Jitendra and Alison, and maybe just ask you a bit about what are some of your takeaways from these three presentations, and what do you think are some of the similarities maybe between some of the opportunities and challenges faced by them?
Great. Maybe I'll start this one. I think, yeah, excellent presentations, and it was really interesting to me to see the common challenges faced by the three countries across the board. And I think what really sort of key takeaways for me was that need in formalizing to, the licensing, I think, is a great one to formalize those systems. In the past, sort of communities were given systems and sort of left on their own to manage those, and they were able to do that with varying levels of success. But I know many rural systems face sustainability issues. So that attempt, I think, to license systems. And as part of that, I think hearing the data collection, having an MIS system to monitor those systems, and then that I think links as well to what we heard about the need for funding and technical support. So if you do have that formal system in place of licensing, you do have that system in place for collecting and tracking data. That's where the national government can come in and really then helps to prioritize and say where should the funds go based on need, levels of access, quality of service, and similarly which communities does the technical support need to flow. So I think all three presentations really complemented each other nicely in terms of the challenges, but then equally what each country is doing to bring in that support and formalize these systems. I think were very complementary, and it showed well how these can all link together to improve rural wash services. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And Jitendra, do you have any reflections on the presentations?
Thank you, Sharon. So first of all, I must thank all the excellent presentations we had today from different regions and South to South learning. Just to add what Alison has already discussed about, I take the appreciation towards the diversity and commonality. So the common issues which we see in all these presentations are the challenges and the approach that has been taken. For example, the long years it takes to reach certain stage, like we discussed in Bolivia, it took 10 years, and Rwanda, it took 14 years, and also more than 6 years in Cambodia. So persistence is the key requirement when we go towards the system strengthening in sector of rural especially. And second part is the diversity. We must appreciate that one solution doesn't fit to all. So maybe challenges are very similar, but case to case basis, what works in one may not be working in another one. So, for example, when we are talking about decentralization in Cambodia and Bolivia, especially, and we also saw that in Rwanda we are talking about new contract management, which is taking from district level again back to national utility level, and that is working there. So each case is different. We should have a careful analysis and we should move forward, learning from our earlier efforts. So this is all I wanted to comment on. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And for me, this is one of the really interesting parts of this SIRWASH collaboration between the three regions, is that there are these common challenges, as you say, around financing, around capacity, and many other things. But are there any common solutions? Is there anything that can be learned from one context and adapted and applied in another in somewhere else? And maybe that's an elusive goal, but I feel there must be something, because yeah, I mean, otherwise you're having to reinvent stuff every time for every single context. Anyway, let's move to some of the questions, because we've had a lot of great questions for the speakers. For Bruce and His Excellency. So let me just start with one, maybe Bruce, for you, from James Kitt. What's the benefit of a national utility signing contracts with the service operators over the districts?
Yes, thank you. I tried to give an answer in the chat, but let me maybe expand it by maybe sharing the experience and why maybe the government decided to shift from a district signed contract versus a national utility. So it started as a public-private partnership between the government and the private operators through the private sector federation of a co-management. So that means the government is in charge of infrastructure development, putting the infrastructure in place, and then they are owned or managed by the districts. But because the districts cannot provide the service on the day-to-day basis, and there was even a bad experience of the local community or the community managed based system, because it was a disaster, because no one was accountable, no one was responsible for repairing, and all the systems were going down. So the government say, okay, let's now go through a business approach by bringing in the private sector. But with that one, the problem came in as who was responsible for the major repair or replacement, because the management was the districts are responsible for the assets in general. But if a pump breaks down, who's responsible to repair the pump? And before even we get to the place of repairing, the maintenance to avoid the major repair that is needed on day-to-day basis, it was in the responsibility of the private operators. But sometimes the private operators were not doing it very well. And by the time the pump is being broken or is damaged, it's too late. Then we need to replace the entire pump. So with that, I can say knowledge or not enough capacity from the districts to follow up on the day-to-day basis and only relying on a private operator, the government decided, since we have a national utility with all the technical skills, with all the resources as a national utility, why don't we make this as one utility, and then this utility, because it's a government company, will now sign subcontract with the same private operators for the service deliveries. So they will have a pump electrician expert, they'll have an electromechanical engineer, they'll have a lot of engineers who will be responsible to do the day-to-day follow-up on how the private operators are doing the day-to-day operation maintenance. So that was the biggest rationale to shift from the contract signing, but the model is still the same. It's still a public-private partnership between the government through the national water utility and the private sector through the private operators. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I think that speaks to a wider point around this institutional strengthening of there are seem to be two key challenges. One is around clarity of roles. Everyone's very clear about where do they fit, what are they expected to do, what's the expectations, and the other is what you mentioned is, I think, around this tension around centralization or decentralization. There seems to be, a recent report that was just been, two recent reports that have just been published through RWSN and with the REACH program and Real Water have really tracked these trends in West Africa and elsewhere of like centralizing everything and then decentralizing everything and then going, oh, that didn't work either. We've got to kind of re-centralize, and it's still trying to find, and I think in different contexts, where should the decision making be? Where should the technical expertise be on some of these? So thank you for that answer. I think if I could bring in His Excellency, there was a question that came in around the challenge of the human resources and technical capacity. What's your ministry or your partners doing to strengthen that and support that?
Yes, thank you for your question. So that the question about the strategy for the challenging of the limit of human resource at the subnational level. So the story that I think 2018 that the government started to transfer of the functioning related to operation and maintenance of the rural water supply to the subnational level. But the problem that because we have only one staff in each district from the beginning, and then this staff became to responsible a lot of the activity at the rural, because one district we have let's say 1,000 of the water point. And then before this, we also have the mechanism that established of water supply sanitation user group, WSUG, who are responsible for operation and maintenance at the field. But anyway, before that, if we have something problem that we call the major repair, then the group of these people a little bit difficult to communicate to the provincial level, and then we just government just transfer the human resource to district level. But the problem because of they don't have enough the background, not engineer, they just have the normal skill. And the strategy for us at the moment, first we need to strengthen them, even only one staff at the district, but we strengthening for providing training for capacity for operation and maintenance, how to repair or replace of the hand pump at the point for the point. And now we also discuss with the government, for the new government, how to encourage the students that just graduate from the school, high school, who are working to the district level. But this a little bit challenges because they go to work far away from the hometown, from the city. The government need to consider how to provide the incentive, maybe more than the staff working at the provincial level. So this is our strategy, and we discuss it. So every year we have to submit our proposal to the government, how many staff that need to be recruited. And this year very special that we will mention clearly about the portion of the staff, of the new staff, government staff that we will recruit. Mean that one district we require one or two new staff. And then we mention clear about the portion they should apply for working at the district level, not at national level. Before we just, for example, we recruit 100 government staff for this year. but we not mention that they were working at the central, at the provincial or district. But from now on, we will mention clear how many portion at the district level, at provincial level. So the student, they know by themselves, they're willing to work at the, we will encourage them to work at the subnational level to strengthening them, because if we provide the training to the staff, but they don't have background at all, so very difficult, because they need to prepare also about the budget plan, about the activity for how to operation maintenance, not just the water supply, because they're responsible for the road maintenance, for the public latrine maintenance also, because many activity at the field, we need more staff. This is the strategy that in terms of our ministry responsible. So we have discussed with the government on this. And thank you for Nancy for your question. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Coming back to Bruce, there was a question about the inclusion of women in decision-making processes. How's that been woven into the work that you and your partners have been doing?
So Rwanda is also known for one of the countries with the highest women in the parliament, at least in the decision-making at a high level. So, for example, in any institutions or any community decision-making, we need to have at least 30% of women represented. And you see our parliament is even beyond 50% of women representation. The cabinet is the same. So, but this is general and might not be maybe tailored to the WASH sector, and each sector have their own issues. So we have issues in the WASH, especially that women are mostly affected, because as part of the culture or other women are the one fetching water, and they are the one maybe responsible for that. So we are trying to maybe build a new gender equity and social inclusion for the WASH sector. Building on that Rwanda good practice on women decision making, how can we maybe translate it into WASH? How many women private operators do we have? How many women are engaged in the decision making? The district WASH boards, the district leadership. So we have a big agenda, and even one of the building block, we have a GESI, a gender equity and social inclusion building block assessment, where we see how are other building blocks mainstreaming gender equity and social inclusion aspect. So we have that, and we are trying to promote this agenda at national level through all the discussions that we have with the partners, with the secretariat, with the sector working group, to make sure that we have gender equity and social inclusion mainstreamed across all the interventions in WASH. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Now, a question is coming for both of you from Robert Boss, who asks, I have just come back from running an ADB workshop on water safety planning in Pakistan for WASH practitioners from 2 provinces. The lack of a coherent regulatory framework for WASH in Pakistan was repeatedly mentioned as an essential gap in a sustainable WASH service delivery. How is this in Rwanda and Cambodia? And even if such a regulatory framework exists for urban WASH, is this being extended into rural areas? Do either of you want to speak to that?
May you summarize again about the question? So,
yeah, so I guess the essential question is on something like water safety planning. Is there do you feel that that there is a coherent regulatory framework, and so that stuff gets done basically, and that everyone's clear about where they fit, and they're not just kind of sitting in a room looking at each other going, I don't know.
I can start maybe to inspire His Excellency. So in Rwanda, even though we have the PPP framework that I defined, I explained, but we still have a regulatory authority. So all the private operators get a license the same way we got the experience from Bolivia. All the private operators in Rwanda, before they start doing the service delivery or get a contract, they need to have a license. And therefore, they have regulatory criteria which they have to report to, and they are regulated. So in addition to signing the contract with the national utility, they have licensing requirement, and they have mechanism to control them. And also the national utility is also considered as a private operator. So they are also regulated by the National Regulatory Authority. But again, maybe to answer your question, who's responsible for what, who's responsible for doing this? So the service provider is responsible to provide a service to the population. That means collecting the tariff, using the contract and the licensing they got from the national utility. The district is responsible for the community awareness and the mobilization of the people. But for infrastructure development, it is the government. Then the national government is responsible to look for funds for maybe constructing new pipes, constructing new water treatment plant, and the regulator is now regulating the service. You are supposed to provide this, you are supposed to charge this amount, they are the ones setting the tariff. So, and of course, we have development partners that can come on board. So that's how the roles and responsibility are subdivided in Rwanda, but the regulatory is still there, and it's both in urban and rural. The regulatory is the same. It's the Rwanda Utility Regulatory Authority. Over.
Great, thank you. Maybe Your Excellency, I can come to you with another question from Julia Tomasi. Hi, I'm wondering how accountability is ensured in each context, both in terms of government promises and private sector's provisions, and how corruption is being prevented. So I guess the first part of that question is maybe around this government promise for, you know, achieving universal access by 2025. Are there accountability mechanisms or reporting mechanisms around that? Oh, we seem to have oh no, it's back. Lisa? Oh, you're muted. Lisa, how's
because yeah, about the Q&A to see about this.
okay? I think we've got you back now. There's a bit of an internet glitch there. Okay, maybe we'll need to come back to you, Sarah, after, if unless is your connection working now? Looks like it's not very. Okay, sorry, Bruce, I'm going to come back to you with another question from Julius asking, my concern is about water resources management. The speaker mentioned that it's structured at district level. My worry is on the allocation for these sources, which are shared by more than one district. Do you have any conflicts between different users?
Yes, conflicts, even though they are not that big, but yes, we might have conflicts, especially when we are using surface water. Maybe one needs for irrigation, another one needs for maybe industry, another one maybe need for water supply. The water resource management plan that I mentioned at a district, at least for the sources, because we are in the rural context, we are using the springs, the natural springs, as our main source for water supply. And those ones, normally we don't have conflicts. But for conflict management among the water users, we have a national Rwanda Water Resources Board, which is responsible to make sure that those conflicts are managed and are not impacting the services or other deliveries. So everyone who abstract water need to declare and need to get a water abstraction permit, and also need to communicate how much the volume of water they're abstracting. So this is in terms of see, no one sector is maybe over or abstracting more than what they are supposed to do. And there was also a prioritization aspect. The first priority is given to human. When there's a conflict, the first priority is the water supply, and also environment, but agriculture and energy and other water users can be considered based on the availability of the water. And there are normally studies that are conducted to see if there's enough water to do that specific project. But also we have catchment, surface water catchment subdivision to see this is the water in this catchment, this is how much we are moving from this catchment to another one. And there's a national portal to see the amount of volume of water people are abstracting. So there's this management at national level in regard to water resource management. The one I mentioned was specifically for drinking water supply systems, because we are normally extracting the natural springs that are coming from the mountain. And normally if you don't protect the upstream of the mountain, your natural springs will be affected by pollution, by quantity, and most of the time they are not considered in surface water management. People are taking care of the rivers, of the lakes, but those natural springs, they are not specifically protected. And when you do a large scale catchment interventions, sometimes the immediate catchment, maybe someone is building a toilet near the spring, or someone is doing some human activities and impacting immediately the spring. So those are the actions we are avoiding with our water resource management plan at the district level. But there is catchment management plans available at national level to avoid this type of conflict. Over.
Great, thank you. So I think that highlights the role of a lot of this institution building has two important functions. One is around, as we've discussed mainly in this conversation, about who does what in terms of delivery of service, and the other is regulation in terms of over mediating conflicts between different users and trying to ensure quality protection against threats such as pollution and all the rest of it. Great. Well, we're starting to wrap up now. So I'm going to, if I can come to our two speakers for any final reflections, and then for our colleagues at ADB to give some closing remarks. So maybe, Your Excellency, do you have any final thoughts or reflections or responses to any of the questions that have come in that you'd like to say now?
Yes, thank you, Sam. That I check. We have the question about what system are currently in place to regulate rural sanitation, and about the wastewater sanitation operator. I would like to inform that in Cambodia, rural water supply and rural sanitation responsible by our ministry, and urban and city responsible for the wastewater responsible by Ministry of Public Work, and for the urban water supply responsibility by the Ministry of Industry, Science and Innovation. And let's say that different from colleague that mentioned about the regulator, about the water fee, about the billing, we work just for help the rural people, not any benefit or collect water fee. So we just provide to the people, and people themselves just respond for small amount. We call water contribution, that the user need to be contribute with a small amount for operation and maintenance only. And related to the fixed cost like management of wastewater, at the moment that Ministry of Rural Development, we have the draft of the MOU, and then we'll discuss directly with Ministry of Public Work, because we're not clear that about both ministry who are responsible for the fiscal cost management at the rural area. So now under discussion between both ministry, but for our ministry a little bit difficult, because we difficult to encourage the private sector to involve with the sector. If we're talking about the private sector, they think about the benefit And for our ministry, just our perspective to help the people to have the clean water, to have the hygienic and proper sanitation at the field. So we have a long way, and then different sector to responsible for the water supply. We have mandate for the urban water supply and rural water supply. We have the need to be clarified mandate about the fiscal sludge at the urban and rural also. So this just would like to clarify on that. And last word from my side that I'm appreciated too much for I have the new experience to join webinar. One thing about the pre-recording, because to help much in case of our networks not working during a presentation will be disturbed for all, very important. And my problem about the listening, my listening not so good. So now I have the team to write down the question so I can understand clear about the question. So if I got a point, I can answer. Sure. So thank you very much. This is a good experience, and I think I will have a chance to join in the near future with you and the other colleagues. Thank you very much from my side.
Great, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Right, we're short on time, so sorry, Bruce. I'm going to have to cut you off, but you've given us a lot of great insights today. So I'm going to turn now to Jitendra and Alison for any final thoughts on any of the issues that have come up before we close in this last 5 minutes.
Thank you, Suyan. I will not take much of time, and yeah, you're right that Bruce has already spoken a lot through question and answer. We came to know about the system in Rwanda now more. So that's really excellent presentation, series of presentations. So I will try to summarize what I learned today through these sessions. In Bolivia, we learned about the granting of licenses and certificates. And I was just wondering whether when we are counting the pending works and the decentralized approach which they are taking, are they considering the renewal of licenses also? Are these licenses having some expiry? So maybe we can reach out to them and understand more about their strategy towards that. In Rwanda, Bruce, you made an excellent presentation, and we came to know more about the approach you are taking, and also especially the issues related to building block assessment. That is quite interesting. So I saw there were some questions. They wanted to explore more about building block assessment for different areas. And then I'm happy to note that His Excellency had a very nice experience of recording the webinar presentation and understanding this process. And we learned about Cambodia system. So now one point here I want to add is that because ADB was working in Cambodia, especially in rural sector, we implemented JC, Gender Equity and Social Inclusion, which Bruce was also talking about. So that is an inbuilt part of every project ADB is undertaking. So that takes care of women participation from the beginning till the end of the project. So that is one aspect we take care of. And before ending my point, I just want to add here that under the new operating model at ADB, we have one sector which is called agriculture, food, nature, and rural development. So ADB is also realizing that rural development and rural issues need more focus than we have been doing so far. So now we are working together towards the, especially catchment planning. Again, I'm taking the words from Bruce, what he was talking. So catchment planning and addressing the issues. So this is all from my side. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Super. Well, and Alison, last words to you before we close up today.
Thank you very much. I think Jitendra summed up his thoughts very well. So not much to add from my side, but excellent presentations. And some of the things that jumped out at me are the importance of demonstration and then taking that to scale. We've seen that work in these countries. The importance of partnerships. So really seeing those partnerships between the municipal level government, national government, with communities, utilities. So that's also a critical component in formalizing that through licensing. And then finally, seeing how technology can be used to harness the ability to stock take, monitor, and deliver services. So I think I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thank you to all of our speakers and panelists today, and to IDB and SDC and my whole team, Aline and Rena, particularly Rena Saltzman, who's been working tirelessly to make this, this series work behind the scenes. I'm just going to share a final slide here just to highlight that this is this has been the second webinar of the series. The third one will be on November the 15th, and focusing on rural sanitation. Why is it left behind? And we've heard a bit about rural sanitation today from the three countries. So we'll be again have three interesting presentations from the three regions, and this next webinar will be hosted by the African Development Bank, our colleagues there. So very much looking forward to that. Otherwise, you'll be able to find the slides and recording to this webinar on our website and our online video channels. Thank you very much again for taking part and for your great questions. Sorry we weren't able to get to all of them, or even the majority of them, but it shows that there's a lot of interest in this area and a lot of interesting things to be done and to follow up with over the coming weeks and months. So thank you very much, and all the best.